This video is brought to you by Chad T. Wilson Law Firm.
All right, I have three guests in the studio today: Sam, Ed, and David from Florida. Sorry, guys, about the weather today. Hope you're okay. They got just 3 a.m. this morning. So we have one giant story that, we need to talk about it because it's been a little bit under the radar with everything else happening, but it is kind of a big news. The Oklahoma Attorney General has stepped into a lawsuit against State Farm. They're accusing the company of running a coordinated program to cut payouts on roof claims. The alleged program is called the Hail Focus Initiative. We're going to talk about all the accusations. We're going to react to what Steve Badger have to say about it and a few other people in the industry. And let's get into it. So what is Hail Focus Initiative? Here's what the Oklahoma Attorney General is claiming. For years, State Farm marketed policies as having full roof replacement coverage, but by 2022, company leadership thought they were approving too many claims. So they made a decision to cut both the members of approvals and the dollar amount on payouts. In practice, that meant a bunch of changes how claims were handled. For example, a replacement had to go through more people to get approved, and the internal definition of hail damage got stricter. All of this happened without informing homeowners. The result was that consumers did not actually get the coverage they signed up for, and claim outcomes were predetermined. Payouts were cut by 50% at least. That's what the Attorney General is arguing. They have accused State Farm of violated the Oklahoma Consumer Protection Act and RICO laws. RICO laws. Thank you.
This is not a surprise to anyone. Like anyone in the roofing space, we deal with every time we call a contractor, talk to a contractor for the first time, we go like, who's the biggest thorn in your side? Mm-hmm. Same answer every time, State Farm. All states normally sink, but State Farm leads the pack. What's your guys' experience with State Farm been like?
Anybody likes State Farm? Do you know any contractor who actually likes State Farm?
No, man. They're the hardest to work with. The AGP is the smallest out there. Everything's a struggle. The amount of one call approvals, even when it's obvious that you got the chalk outline and the murder weapon on the scene of the crime, and they still fight every single claim. It's been a nightmare trying to deal with them, to be honest.
I hate to say it, I personally love them because as a public adjuster, they make up 60% of the claims we handle.
That's the problem, though, right?
Yeah.
It's like a love-hate, right? Is what it comes down to at the end of the day.
Exactly. Yeah. The only reason we get called in is when someone's getting screwed. So it's a shame to see one carrier specifically make up over half of those cases.
Yeah.
So what's the craziest thing you've seen with State Farm or any insurance company, right? This isn't just State Farm. Like State Farm's being targeted as the largest, but this is like common practices that we're seeing.
Well, it depends. 'Cause we live in Florida. So Florida is a hot mess to try to deal with any insurance carrier because all the bigs have pulled out. So like my neighborhood, we got hit by a tornado since on Helen, and a year and a half later, you got like $5, $10, $20 million homes still tarped because insurance still haven't done anything. So you got that kind of insanity. Versus, you know what? I think the biggest thing with this is really, I mean, you're an adjuster, you know more than this than anybody. I think it's just how one house has all the exact same damage at the house to the left of it, and that one goes through in one day, and the next one's this fight to get any kind of coverage.
Yeah, and anytime you ask them, you're like, how come this one got denied, but the 5 around it, State Farm approved all of them, right? You have all 6 of these, and they're like, well, hail falls at random. And then you get up on a roof, and they're like, yeah, we're going to do a 10 by 10 test square, and whatever happened here is what happened on the whole roof. You're like, I thought it fell at random. Like, they just pick and choose when to apply their logic.
That's a great point. Never heard that before. But what's the main purpose of insurance? Would you say it's...
I question it every day. So.
Would you say it's to pay out claims, like in case of something happen? I mean, why do we buy insurance?
Well, I think the insurance quote they use, which I like, is to restore it to its original form kind of thing, right? So you're buying it just in case. Yeah. And if something gets compromised, your most valuable possession for most people in America is you want to restore it to its original condition.
I guess I look at insurance as it's a spreading of risk, right? So it's like I myself have a risk. If my home gets hit, it's 100% on me. But I can sign up for an insurance company where there's 10,000 people in my city, and now if something happens, it's been dispersed against us, or the whole state's that so it's a redisbursement of the risk.
So second question is, they have money. So company like State Farm, we're talking about 60, 70 billion, right? They have every tool in a box. And in the world of AI, automations, numbers, data, would you say it's not hard to calculate not only risk but also payout? So do you see insurance companies anyway? Like the question that I have here is, why do we go to make anything harder, not easier? Like, like everybody's bragging about how AI is going to change the world, right? I would argue that if you're in business to pay out claims, the process should be faster, more accurate, easier to understand.
They're in the business of making a profit, first off, which doesn't happen by paying out claims.
Yeah, bingo. So they are not trying to make anybody's lives harder. So I feel like we have this battle, technology battle. So on the one side, we have contractors who employ today every single tool they can. We have a drone technology that detects damage. We have weather technology, right? Like you can literally put all the data in almost any AI out there, and it'll give you the neighborhoods, the houses, with the damage, right? And then you cross it with another data, like who's insuring these homes. Actually, I've done it several times in the neighborhoods. I remember Joe Radcliffe case back in the day, where if you look at a neighborhood, like let's say you have 10,000 homes affected after the storm, and if you actually scan, you will see that there are more denials from one insurance company versus another, right? Like, it could be 80%, it could be 60% denial rate, but it's not hard to figure it out. And what I see right now happening in the marketplace is you have businesses that are in that business making everything streamlined, and other side of the business making everything tighter and harder. The question I have, how do you fight it? Like, how do you combat it? Because just because you have technology, they'll find a loophole of, what I don't understand, maybe you can help me. Isn't there a rule that if they say there's a damage, like 60 days or 30 days when they have to make a decision or pay out claim? Mm-hmm. So what's the time frame?
Every state's different, but just assume like
roughly
30 days.
30 days.
Yeah.
So what loophole do they use not to...
They're still in the middle of their investigation. The thing is, unless you're suing them, there's actually no way to hold them accountable, right? Like you can file DOI complaints DOC. Some states are Department of Financial Industries or whatever, but every state's different. You can file a complaint, but the state's not going to do anything about it. Like they'll investigate. And there's cases that come up, but
nobody's policing.
99.5% claims never go to litigation. So like they're not getting. It's not like they're actually getting sued as much as they should. They're not being held feet to the fire. So we see it all the time. Contractors will call me like, "Hey, we have this claim, blah blah. Where a chance you think it'll get proved?" It's like in my head, I'm like 100%. I have to be like 90% because they might just be completely, apathetic to the situation, not do anything, and say sue us.
So even if they're a hard rule or law or whatever, they just don't do it and nobody's making them accountable?
AAA knows this. AAA is the biggest nightmare to deal with. Michigan, Minnesota, we get assigned on a claim and they'll tell us, you can sue us if you want to keep going farther. You can take us to appraisal, you can sue us. They won't have a conversation, they won't deal with anything. They'll just say, sue us. And they push it to litigation. And most people don't take the litigations. They know that works. It hushes up 90-95% of people.
Why most people don't do it? Why?
Costs money.
They get tied up is what it is, right? They get tied up.
Are there lawyers who love taking these cases?
Yeah, well, Merlin, right? That's the main one, right? SJJ. There's a lot that take them on, but most attorneys have a minimum, amount that.
So what advice would you give to the homeowner who has AAA and who got denied?
Sorry.
No, would you recommend litigation?
No, like your SOL. If they didn't pay for it off the initial, your SOL. You could go to litigation, but you're going to spend, it depends. If it's a $20,000 roof, like you're going to spend that on litigation costs, right? No attorney's going to want to take it on a contingency. This is the end of the day, like where you do start to see the spread of like what's fair and unfair and different, classes of society is like, if you have a big fancy house, they're more likely to pay for it because they know you're going to sue you. If it gets denied, you can sue and get it, right? Like the smaller homes and the lower class get really, really screwed when it comes to the insurance game.
David, let's read into why this private case turned public. What happened there?
Okay, so originally this was a private lawsuit with one homeowner, which was Hirsch versus State Farm. State Farm argued the Attorney General did not have the authority to intervene in a private contract dispute, but Judge Amy Palumbo disagreed and she granted intervention. In the motion, the AG argues that this case involved alleged statewide misconduct affecting thousands of consumers, not just one homeowner. So the filing emphasizes that protective orders and discovery limitations could affect the state's ability to access evidence and protect the public interest. For homeowners, this matters because the case could determine whether internal claim standards not written in policies were used to deny or reduce valid roof claims. If proven, the implications extend far beyond one property.
All right, can I go on a tangent for this part?
Go
I
ahead,
promise. This is like two
go.
stuff.
It's all you. Take it.
When you sign an agreement with an insurance company, it's a policy. That policy is your contract. That is all you agree to. You are not agreeing to their internal guidelines, NBS. It is if there is damage and I prove it, you owe for it. And as a PA, that's the biggest leverage we have is we can come in and be like, this is what they signed. Like we can discuss policy, and that's the leverage we have is just bringing them back to the policy. If you fight a claim in the policy, you win. It's very simple. It's like there's damage. It's covered, you pay for it. It's when they break it out to these internal guidelines. Oh, we need, I just made a post the other day, like you need 18 hits per test square. And they do it in these 9 quadrants and all this crazy stuff. You see, it's like their internal guidelines. State Farm, I've never successfully got a single State Farm adjuster to put in writing how they define hail damage. None of them do it. They'll send you this brochure they have that shows everything's not hail damage. I'll send them, hey, here's 3 different, definitions. Which one do you like? Or here's a definition. Do you agree with it? They won't agree to it because their internal guideline, I don't even know if they have one for hail damage. It's just everything's not hail damage. Here's everything that it isn't. It's blistering. It's wear and tear.
So you don't need to do a test? Why do they do a test then?
What kind of test?
Like 10 by 10? Like square test?
It's smaller than that. They don't even know what a hail hit is. So that's actually one of the main things I tell contractors. Like when you meet an adjuster on site, look at the adjuster and say, how are you going to define hail damage when we get on that roof? Well, I know what I'm looking for. So we're going to take the seat of your pants to judge whether this should be paid or not. Your training, and like, I don't know if you're flipping burgers last week, you've been doing it for 10 years, right? Every adjuster you talk to is like, yeah, it's my 7th year. And you're like, you don't even know a pair of cougar cut paws yet. But with that being said, like it's their internal guidelines. You didn't agree to those. And that's where the AG stepped in. And I will say the state does step up in situations like this. It's good to see the AG, like seeing Oklahoma do this. But yeah, the internal guidelines are insane. What do you guys think?
Yeah, no, man. It's I'm thinking about my own experience with all this kind of stuff, right? It's you're just bringing up a lot of memories, and I don't even just the amount of battles and why you have to deal with public adjusters and why you have to bring in professionals.
You make it sound bad.
No. It's actually valid, right?
Yeah,
because like you can only go so far with this.
Mm-hmm.
The thing about a PA is they're versed, they're educated. It's what they do for a living, right? All we do is even as a business owner, you bring in you claim what you think you can do, right? You write the policy as up, you use Xactimate, you take pictures, do everything you've ever been taught. And then I'm thinking also like, and this, I don't know if I'm on topic or off topic, but then you talk about adjusters, like when a storm hits, sometimes they bring in like 90% of the people aren't even from the state. They don't even know construction law in that state.
We joke about that up here all the time. Like you show a Texas adjuster, Minnesota hail, they'll never pay for it.
Yeah, exactly, right? But they don't even, and some people are coming from places that don't even get hail, right? So how are they here trying to talk about wind or hail or anything when like their state or their city, like I don't even know, like Southern California, they get wind maybe, but why do you have adjusters here from anywhere besides the state that you're in?
Well, they took the online training class for a week. They know what hail damage is. And of course, you got to imagine, right? If I'm training someone, I'm teaching them how to really look at hail damage, like someone on my team. But I do wonder on the carrier side, I employ a couple PAs that used to be insurance carriers, but I wonder at the adjuster, like, you can't imagine State Farm is showing their adjusters, hey, here's what a hail hit looks like. If you zoom in, here's like, you can see this, and this is what it is. They're probably showing them a photo of like 3-inch hail and be like, that's hail damage. And then they're moving on to everything that's not hail damage, right? Their training and everything has to be so skewed to guiding away from it.
I think this isn't my side of the business. I'm the lead generation side. I'm more like sexier, exciting side. This stuff drives me nuts, honestly. But this is what it comes down to is that we talk about AI, right? Technology. I feel like this is an area that's ripe for disruption, right? There's got to be a way to create a win-win in the middle ground. And you look at what happened with United Healthcare with for Luigi, the guy who's like a fucking hero, right? The guy's a hero.
He's hero to someone.
Yeah, but I'm saying that it just goes that people are frustrated is what it comes like. You would never imagine that. You would think 10 years ago. It's like because it's time. The American consumer's strapped. They feel like they're getting burned everywhere, left and right. The insurance companies are the villains. So I think it creates something that's ripe for disruption for the right group. And the United Healthcare stock has had a hard time rebounding, right? So maybe we talk about solar going to hell. These stocks being crushed. Now they're starting to rebound, but there might be money going towards these technologies, and that might be the next disruptors, right? You have to find who they are, and hopefully they can create these win-wins. But right now, it's like, yeah, this drives me nuts thinking about it. My head's spinning.
Here's the thing: is any of these third-party AIs that have came about, I've seen a lot of pushback from carriers. Right? EagleView had these drones that would fly themselves around the house, document the damage, and like assess like here's hail damage, here's the damage to the roof, where it should be replaced or not. Like honestly, like I think I can do cool stuff with AI, and I see stuff that they do, and I'm like, okay, so this top tier EagleView, which every insurance company goes, we agree, or most of them agree with EagleView. They use their reports for roof measurements. They're like, we trust this company. And the second they came out with the software of like, hey, we can figure out if there's hail damage to roofs or not. We've seen this huge, like everyone I've talked to had submitted them is like, yeah, the insurance company pushes back. They're like, oh, it's not trustworthy, or oh, it's AI. Like we trust our photos of the roof. And then as a PA, it's fun. We get their photos of the roof, and they have 12 overshot photos that are blurry, like 144p. And we're like, yeah, I wouldn't be able to see hail damage from that either, right?
Yeah.
What kind of AI do you think would actually neutralize that?
I think that I talked to a lot of traders on Wall Street, right? We're in lead generation. A lot of these guys use AI to create. You should take them to split test ads. These should be it was very laborious. Now they can do stuff in seconds. They can generate thousands of ads and split tests and do whatever. So I think just somebody that can. It's probably gonna have to be developed within the freaking one of these companies. So there's their own AI, or they have to buy someone else. I just think whatever's gonna speed up the process, collapse time frames, like I always talk about, and create some sort of win-win. So I don't know. It's not really my field, but I just know what technology has done for all these categories. What it's done for my industry on the lead gen side, And I feel like roofing is an outdated roofing home improvement is very outdated. They're not leveraging this. But I work with utility companies, Pacific Power, Pacificor. We work with Rocky Mountain Power, Duke Energy, multi-billion-dollar, $100 billion utility companies. But it's amazing how outdated they were in 2012. So I feel like that creates opportunity, right? And the people that have that ability, they just got to keep trying to force it.
I agree. My concern, and what you'll hear me say on a lot of these episodes, is show me the incentive, I'll show you the outcome.
Yeah, exactly.
There's
You're right.
no incentive for insurance companies to get any better at claims.
Ding, ding, ding.
The worse their claims are. Is that where you're going with it?
Yeah, because I see it right now. I've seen some things that make EagleView look like VCR, like beta, like type whatever, right? It's old school technology. And the AI comes out, gives a report, circles it, does whatever, gives a very consolidated report of what's going on. I don't think insurance companies want it to work because now they're going to be held accountable, right? You create the standard, you create this kind of umbrella kind of, hey, this is the industry standard, they would lose.
If insurance companies paid for all the properties they'd go out of business.
100%.
Yeah.
Or premiums would be a lot higher, but at the same token of it, like it goes back to the same point, right? You fight something, you see loose tiles, you can prove it to you, like it's so obvious that there's damage here, and yet they fight everything. And then like the same roof, you can get a 20 square roof, houses right next to each other, same storm hit both, right? And this one's half, and this one's full coverage. I mean, it's just once again, it's just there's no same insurance company, right?
I just imagine a meeting between insurance executives. Here's how I picture them. The Godfather movie, like you go to the bar, you're like laughing. And because this is what they created. They're like, we train all these adjusters, roofers do this. I mean, think about how they look at us from top down. It's like, what are they doing there? Oh, they're just fighting, and here's arguments, right? Like to them, I think it's like a joke. They know what's going on. Yeah. Everybody knows it. Like
I fear they don't.
I think they do.
I fear they don't know.
You know what I think it is? I think it's more like QuickBooks. I think it's like even if they're going to fight and they're going to lose, by keeping those billions of dollars in their backyard, collecting interest, having the money work for them, there's hundreds of millions and billions of dollars being accrued just on interest from fighting everything.
Yeah, I don't think the C-suite at State Farm is looking down going, we should deny more claims. I think they're talking about profits and spreadsheets, yada, yada. And the management team below them, all the layers below them know what that means, which is deny claims. All their incentives are based on, profit sharing in the business. Right, so it's like
being old school benefits them.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course.
So there's no incentive to improve anything.
It's the one company where being the slower and the worst is good for you, right? Where do they spend all their time? Getting policies. It's all marketing spend. It's all focused on easy claim process. Like we're your best friend. Billions of dollars in marketing campaigns. That's their focus is getting policies in, paying out claims. It's like being a roofer and paying your crews. It's like you make a lot of money if you just don't pay your crews.
Sales reps. You pay your crews.
I know some solar companies that didn't pay their crews.
Hey, we got quite a few of those, right?
It's just a too big to fail thing, though. If you had a roofing company that you handled every single roof across the U.S. or 60% of the roofs across the U.S., suddenly, the crews would be okay taking on the risk. Like, I know you're not going to pay, but I'll go with you. It's like a homeowner getting a policy with State Farm. I know you might not pay, but I'll go with you.
Ed, do you personally know, have you met Steve Badger?
No.
No? Well, let's see what he has to say.
Steve Badger.
Don't say it 3 times, he'll appear.
He says, is it fair for carriers to create programs like this? And he states, right now, no one knows what the initiative actually entails. All of the consumer advocates have just assumed the initiative had some nefarious purpose. Let's hold judgment until we see what the program really entailed. If the initiative was simply intended to address how they evaluated, documented, and handled hail claims, then I have no problem at all with that. Every company in any business area has the right to try to reevaluate and try to improve their business practices. On the flip side, if they openly stated they were going to deny more claims, then of course that's bad. But I seriously doubt the records will show that is what happened.
This guy is such a puppet master. It drives me mad. If you ever listen to him talk, you'll listen and be like,
what
yeah, and then
triggers
you think
What?
about it afterwards. You're like, that drove me mad. And anything you say, like, he's going to clip this.
He's been
We're getting
waiting for
cease and
this moment all
desist.
his life.
I'm like so cautious because I've seen him rip other people apart.
I'm
and
not
it's
saying
just,
anything bad about him at all here.
yeah. and for you that don't know, I believe Steve Badger's like claim to fame was he represented the Twin Towers suing American Airlines, if I remember right, for 9/11. And so he's got a long
What was the
tail
outcome of that,
insurance
by the
space.
way? You know?
This
Was he
Twin
successful?
Towers won. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That was his claim
I
to
had an
fame.
interview on the 84th floor that day, the day on the second tower, and I woke. It was a long story. I worked 7 blocks from there. I woke up late. I missed the whole thing, you know, and it's crazy.
That's a blessing.
It was a blessing.
That's crazy. I don't even know. Nothing I say. Damn. Or dang. Yeah, no, it's right here when he says, well, if this is, we should hold judgment, okay? We should hold judgment until we see. Some of us have seen. We've been in the field. We've dealt with it. This is like someone committing murder and then going, well, let's see, what their intent was.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean? You committed murder. You committed fraud. You stole from millions of people. Yeah, this I have been waiting my whole life for this moment. We won't.
I love this. On the flip side, if they're
crazy.
openly stated they were going to deny more claims, then of course that's bad. Every company in any business area have the right to try to reevaluate and try to improve their business practice. But here's my thing. When we improve our business, is our focus our business or business of our customers? When me and you trying to improve our business, we think about not what makes us richer, but how the jobs get done faster.
Improving the product.
Exactly.
Yes.
So insurance products only get worse. And right, we're not getting cheaper policies.
State Farm's, that's what I was getting at before. State Farm's product is not paying claims. That's not what they're selling. It is a feeling of security and a blanket of warmth. No one gets State Farm. If you Google State Farm for 10 seconds, go on Facebook and just search State Farm claim experience. You're going to find out quick you shouldn't get State Farm. State Farm is selling the dream of, we'll take care of you. There's good neighbors. Jake from State Farm's your buddy. That is their product. That is what they focus their time on. Their product has nothing to do with paying claims.
So another question he's been asked, do internal initiatives override policy language? Of course, policy language always controls, but nothing prevents an insurance company from having its own interpretation of that language or even changing that interpretation. You know how we always say that any warranty out there is written by lawyers? I mean, that's what that's about. Like when you give a warranty, it protects your best interest because you can interpret it.
It'd be different too if we dealt with adjusters on their side that knew how to read the policy. Legitimately 25% of the claims, 25% claims we get, they just misquoted the policy and denied it. And after a few emails, we get it to a manager that knows how to read a policy. So it's like their interpretations are being interpreted not by attorneys, right? Let's not give them the benefit of the doubt to that point. It's like, it's kind of normal person reading, like you said, it's written by attorneys.
So here's his final take on what does it make you the of Oklahoma argument that this falls under consumer protection and RICO laws. It is a consumer protection issue, he says, but insurance consumer protection is usually within the purview of the State Department of Insurance. As to RICO, again, let's first learn what the initiative involved.
We don't know why he murdered him. That's all he's saying on repeat.
But it's predetermined, and he had the smoking gun, and he went home to get the gun and came out.
We don't know the reason. Commit a murder.
It's a political.
From 1
answer.
to 10, what are the chances
So
that they'll go with the RICO charges?
I don't know how they wouldn't. It's RICO is what's the term for it? This is what Steve Madrill will clip and post. But Sam doesn't know what RICO is. Talking legal. No, repeated, right? Like systematized crime. How would claim handling or intentional mishandling claims not be systematized crime, right? It's on repeat. Tens of thousands of times.
Well,
multiple lawsuits.
Let's see what Chip Merrill have to say. You
All
probably
right.
like this guy a little bit more.
He's got great hair. I'll give him that. And a Kentucky accent. All right. So let's see. This side says, we also looked at what policyholder attorneys are saying about this case. Chip Merlin wrote about the situation on his blog. And for you guys that don't know, Chip Merlin owns Merlin Law, which is a policyholder advocate type of law firm. Remember that State Farm asked the court to block the AG from getting involved. They didn't win that argument, but Merlin says it exposed what State Farm is really worried about. And this is what Chip Merlin said. What truly unsells State Farm is not bringing the case. Instead, it is what the case might publicly uncover. The Attorney General made clear that intervention was necessary because confidentiality rulings, protective orders, and discovery limits in the private case could determine whether State Farm ever gains access to evidence of statewide misconduct. Discovery is power. Discovery in civil lawsuit reveals truth. Chip Merlin also pointed out that State Farm could potentially avoid a lawsuit by releasing information about the Hail Folks initiative. Chip said, if State Farm believes its internal claims initiatives are consistent with policy language and good faith, why not explain them to policyholders and share them openly? Why not publish how Hail claims are evaluated, what standards are used, and how adjusters and vendors are instructed? Why not transparency? The answer is obvious. Transparency would invite scrutiny. Scrutiny would invite accountability, and accountability would invite change. I do want to start, like I said out here, I love State Farm. They keep me in business. I hope they keep denying claims. It only helps us. But it sucks to see that the only reason I have a job is because people are getting screwed. All right?
But isn't it the problem that with entire industry, we have so many middlemen and so many third parties? We have supplement companies. How many of those we have? We have lawyers. We have all of these people making money because someone is not doing what they're supposed to be doing. I mean, do you think it's cheaper for them? Like, do you think if insurance companies start just paying out claims and all the players will go away, it'll be cheaper? Because think about how big is your industry?
Public adjusting?
Yeah.
It's more niche than you'd expect.
Like what's the billion dollar amount?
I couldn't even tell you. Take whatever roofing is and 1% of that.
1%. So 6 billion?
That could be accurate, yeah.
Actually, no, 6 billion, that would be 10%. 600,000?
No, that'd be 600 million.
600 million.
600 million. I would say 6 billion seems large.
Yeah. If
600 million?
60 billion, that is, 600 million.
Yeah, like there's not that many firms even making $1 million a year nationwide.
I've interviewed people who does like 150 million a year at one firm.
Yeah, there's not many of them. Like count on one hand. Like there's not that many.
Yeah, but you would count to 600 pretty fast.
Yeah. I know we only use them when something gets denied, generally State Farm, right?
Yeah.
But it's so normally if we're getting half bids or we can't win it, then we use an adjuster to kind of help out with the discrepancy. But it's usually like a good chunk of it, right? It's you get about 30% that you're fighting, 70% that kind of happened day one, and it's so you figure how many of that you can actually help save.
Those percentages have changed a little bit over the last few years too.
Yeah.
That's
I think it's the age of the storm too. When you get like some sort of catastrophe during this area is getting 1.5 inch storm in Texas is like nothing. You got to get at least 2-3 inch. So I think it depends on the market too.
It does. Dave, you've been quiet. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I just think we got to disrupt. We got to disrupt the system. Someone's got to disrupt. And I think in the share prices, something's got to. Maybe people just don't get insurance at some point. People are like, screw this. They give up. And I fear that's what's going on in our society. People can't afford crap. They're like, screw this. They're like, screw the system. And I think that they have to feel it at some point to allow that disruption to occur. So I mean, that's what I think from my.
Here's my question. You know how we say that the best marketing is word of mouth, and usually that's true. When we like Apple computers, I'll tell you.
I've never seen a Chubb commercial, like Chubb Insurance.
Yes, but why doesn't it work in reverse? Like when people hate, like when you have someone like State Farm, who everybody hates, why people are not canceling, boycotting? Is it because they're the cheapest price and nobody would insure in their house and people just go on doing cheap policies, or is it because of their marketing?
State Farm is not the cheapest. Rarely is State Farm like the cheapest.
I think it's almost like people don't, it's until it's personal. right?
Yeah.
Like you talk about insurance, like how many people actually get claims? How many times do you actually have a water, like a water softener break in your house and flood the house? How often do you get your roof replaced as a homeowner? How often do you deal with the insurance? How many times do you get in these where you got to total your car? And I think what happens is that when people get the personal experiences, even with like the State Farm, for instance, or any of these insurance companies, until they actually deal with the fighting and they actually involve with it, at the end of that experience, they may drop State Farm. But coming into it, it's really like it's not personal to them. So I think people, especially Americans, but I think in general, unless it's personal somehow, or you can somehow feel it, people just don't care. It has to be personal to their experience.
I agree.
It is. I mean, I always say if I didn't go to church so much growing up, I'd start an insurance company and I'd be very wealthy. I'm telling you, State Farm could hire me. They could deny way more
You're
claims.
public adjuster. You're almost the same thing. Potato.
No. So cynical. No, I mean, seriously, I'll tell you, for as bad as it
Common
is.
law of public adjusters are different category.
No, I will tell you, State Farm does not deny nearly as many claims as they could.
Yeah.
They really don't. They could deny and do so much worse. And there's insurance companies out there that do. We mentioned them earlier. But at the end of the day,
AAA?
The fact that we get most of the claims overturned, even at the PA level, without having to go to litigation, and the number that get approved.
I think I've only had to litigate once.
Yeah, like it's pretty rare.
Ever.
Like most contractors, the way that we see it is
gotta use public adjusters.
no, like 60%
and go to church.
60% of your claims as a roofer are going to get approved on the front end. 20% will go to a PA and get one, and maybe 5% will go to litigation. And 10 to 15% you give up, or it backs out, they sell the house, or just the damage wasn't actually there.
Or the day.
Right? Like they could deny way more than what they are.
That's true.
Well, that's it for the topic today. Comment below what you think about this crazy story. David checked out about 20 minutes ago. It's not comment below what you think, and we'll see you in the next video.
Big storms mean new roofs to replace, but only if insurance pays up. We fight insurance companies so your clients recover what they're owed. Because when they win, you win. Let's work together to anchor the scales for every homeowner you serve.